States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. This evening, Select Board member Katie Adams is unable to join us, but she will join us on speakerphone remotely. She is unable to attend this meeting because her children are ill and she needs to be with them. Good evening, Katie.
Hello?
Can everyone in the audience hear her?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I'm assuming they can hear her in the control room, or they would let us know?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any public comment from the board?
I have one for the first time in a long time.
Yes.
As most people know, I'm up for re-election this year. A lot of things have changed in my life since I started volunteering for the town 9 years ago. When I started out, I was a recent college grad, a single guy, woefully unemployed, living with my parents, and now I'm a married guy with a house, 2 kids, a business, and a wife who's gone back to college recently. So for no other reason than I haven't found out a way to be in 2 places at one time, I've decided not to run for re-election this year. But I wouldn't dedicated a lot of my adult life to the town, and this is where I'm from, and I care about the community very deeply. So I'd like to think of this as not saying goodbye, but till we meet again for politics.
So it's a sabbatical. Sort of like Tom took a sabbatical too.
Hopefully. Hopefully it works out that way.
Well, you will be missed. You've been a very important member of this board. Your knowledge, just being an architect and someone who knows so much about the business of the town and being so deeply involved. You were on the planning board. Were you ever on finance, or were you just on the planning?
No, it was
Just planning.
planning, historic, building reuse, capital planning, Assio's building committee.
So you've worn many hats for the town. Thank you very much for your volunteering service. We know it's a lot of work.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Thank you. Any other public comments from the board?
No.
Nothing from you this evening?
I have one at the end of the meeting, but since you're insisting, I'll say it now. So there's a new law in Massachusetts regarding texting and driving that went into effect on February 23rd. So there's a 30-day kind of grace period in which everyone receives warnings, but you will start getting tickets on March the 23rd. So the gist of the law is that you cannot have any handheld device, you cannot use a handheld device for any reason, texting, scrolling, etc.
So you can't be talking either.
Correct. So the first offense is a $100, after the 23rd of March, the first offense is a $100 ticket, the second offense is a $250 ticket, and the third and any subsequent offense is a $500 ticket. So I just want to make people aware, and the expectation is that it will hit your insurance
I
rates.
was going to say, I bet there's insurance implications
So
as well.
I just want to remind everyone to drive safely. I know that I'd say the majority of people that I notice driving from Boston every day use their cell phones while driving, so I'm sure that there will be a lot of people getting pulled over.
Well, it certainly is dangerous to be texting and holding a phone while you're driving, so I'm very happy that the law is finally come into play.
All right. Now I'll have another opportunity to talk to Damon about not staying on the board. So
Yeah.
That's certainly going to
Yeah, he's going to try to change my mind.
certainly going to be sad.
Try to twist his arm, that's what we're going to do. Any public comment from the public?
Good evening. I'm Peter Beardmore. I live at 282 Pleasant Street. Speaking on behalf of myself, but this comment will pertain to my service on the Finance Committee. And it's, I think, very apropos because we have a member tonight who is participating remotely. And we have 2 members who have announced their retirements from the board. And we have a town manager who every week in her report reports on vacant positions in town boards. And so what I'd like to talk with you about tonight is what can we do as a town to encourage participation and to avail ourselves to the technology that is available to participate remotely when town residents need to do so. My first time volunteering for a town committee was in 2003. I served for about 3 years as an associate member of the ZBA, and I loved the job. I learned a lot, really enjoyed working with my fellow members. I had to resign from that position because I took a job that required me to travel frequently, and I just could not offer the level of participation that anybody really thought was reasonable for that position. But over the years, things have evolved. More and more people work from home. We work remotely, but many of us also travel. We're a much smaller world. And so while anybody in Lunenburg may even work from home frequently, they may work for anybody anywhere in the world and need to, on occasion, visit their work, which could be out of state or even out of the country. In my mind, that should not preclude anybody from serving on a town board. 2 weeks ago, I informed the town manager. This was on the, I won't go into terrible detail on this, but on the 13th of February, I informed the town manager and the town's technology director that I would be missing 2 finance committee meetings, last week's meeting and next week's meeting for business travel. And I requested technology support to be able to participate in both of those meetings from this stage using video, because we're doing budget hearings with the Finance Committee right now, and in my view, it makes sense to be able to participate as much as possible, both with video and with audio. And I thought with enough advance notice, this is something that we could accommodate. We have cameras in the room, we have an audio system. In my mind, this was reasonable. And without going into too much detail, my request could not be fulfilled. And during the course of the conversations, the town's technology director relayed to me on 2 occasions that it has historically been the position of the town's government to discourage remote participation, even though, frankly, this is something that is provided for under Mass state law now, with some limitations. Can I finish, please? And then you're more. I would appreciate a response. I don't think he nor I view this as the position of this board. I think that this is something that has historically evolved over time. But I think that I would like to request of this board that you acknowledge the service that working people bring to the town, and that the town government, you require of the town government that we do our best to accommodate the working volunteers on town boards in as great a degree as possible, understanding that technology fails and things are going to happen. And as it turned out, last week's meeting got relocated to the high school because the elevator failed here and needed to be repaired. And due to the coronavirus, I will not be traveling next week, and I will be able to participate. So at the end of the day, it became a non-issue due to circumstances.
So were you able to participate
So I did
remotely?
participate via cell phone, just like we're doing here. And I have to tell you, my participation was diminished. The police chief brought a PowerPoint presentation that was not emailed in advance, so I was playing along without being able to see the PowerPoint. I got it after, that sort of thing where if you do have the benefit of audio and video, you are going to be able to participate more effectively.
Yes.
In any circumstance, in my view. And the technology is available, and it's largely free nowadays, using Skype and Zoom and other, very available technologies. And the quality is excellent if you configure it properly. So I would ask you for your support, and, this circumstance will happen again for me. It does happen, in unplanned circumstances, and I think that this is a perfect accommodation in this circumstance. But can we do, our best to encourage full participation for citizens who want to participate but need to do so occasionally in a remote capacity.
And even in that case, even if you had gotten the PowerPoint ahead of time, that would have been a huge help.
Sure, it would have, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Can I respond to a couple of points on that?
Sure.
To clarify the comment about that administrations do not encourage participation. The IT director made it very clear that was previous administrations, not the current administration. Want to make that apparently clear. And the PowerPoint that was in the hands of the finance chair and was distributed to members prior to that meeting. So
Oh, how much prior?
I would have to ask her when she received it.
Yeah, because if he didn't have it. Because, that's a huge issue.
Again, I don't want to belabor the details here. The technology director and I have had a couple of conversations on this topic, and as I said, I don't believe any of us believe that this is the position of the current Board of Selectmen or town government. However, that is a position that has been relayed to me from him on a couple of occasions, and was provided for as a reason as to why I could not be accommodated. So, for whatever that's worth. Secondly, I did not have a full, and I still don't, in fact, have all of the documents from that meeting. So, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I can also comment. So to Mr. Beardmore's point, I encourage participation any which way we can do it. I do think that over the phone it is diminished, for sure, when you're participating remotely through the phone. I do think you bring up a good point about video participation. With Facebook, and I know the town has a Facebook page, there's a portal. And that could be a technology that maybe we could look into implementing or utilizing for some people if we have the infrastructure that can support it. So I think that there's probably some follow-up here that, I don't currently know what capability we have sitting on the stage to connect to high-speed internet. So it would be nice to look into this, and I think we'll follow up.
Yeah. We definitely need to make it easier for people. It's a small town. We can't run without volunteers. We can't pay for everything that we need to have done. So we depend on volunteers, and the more we realize that and appreciate that and try to accommodate those volunteers, the better government we're going to have.
To respond as far as staff, the IT director did look into it, did try to accommodate the request. After working with PAC, found it was not a feasible option to do with our current infrastructure, would require technical and physical challenges to get to that point, not being able to be done in 2 weeks. It's a much longer solution, would require additional equipment, running cables and such. So
How does Skype work? It seems like everybody Skypes.
Yeah, but you need a high-speed internet.
Huh?
You
Is
need
that
you need
difficult? I mean, a lot of people Skype. I don't think they have a lot of technology.
it's the point that
necessarily.
it has to be interfaced with both the public in the audience, the people running the meeting, as well as through being videoed at home. So there's a lot of,
I don't know, I've seen people's faces on TV at Conservation Commission meetings. So how do they do that?
They're using the portal. Facebook portal.
So it sounds like it's
but
possible.
to tie into our live meetings. No, I'm telling you from relaying from the IT directors and his expertise. And it's not a easy solution, as one would think.
Okay, so I certainly trust the
But we'll
IT director.
continue to look into
I
it.
certainly have complete faith in the technical capabilities of the IT director. I wouldn't question, from the amount I know about technology, I would never question the IT director. And so I'm assuming that it is difficult, but it is something we should try to work toward, if we can do it in an affordable way.
But I think we should try to work for it, period, because I think that it is where we are at, and Mr. Biermer brought up some really good points, that a lot of people do work remotely. I work remotely here and there, and it's dependent upon me being able to have a camera in my face, and, there's a lot of ways to do this. I mean, some of this is the fact that we are in a building that clearly does not meet our needs, and this is just another example of why it doesn't meet our needs. But there's certainly I think this is a larger issue that we need to fully address. And I support where Mr. Biermer is coming from on this.
Are there any other public comments from the public? Okay. Our first appointment, do you have any announcements?
No, I do not.
Okay, so you probably are going to bring up the town caucus and town manager's
That's on my
report?
town
Okay,
manager's
great. All right, at 7:05, or a little bit late, sorry about that, public hearing for peddler's license application, Kevin Clem for Vivant Solar. Is that how you pronounce it, Vivant?
Vivint.
Vivint.
Vivint Solar. So my name's Kevin Clem. I'm with Vivint Solar, and I'm applying for a peddler's license for the town of Lunenburg. I don't know what you guys need from me.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, have you had any discussion with the police chief at all to find out what he requires as far as notification for what
Yep,
you're going to be
I've met with him, and I've provided him all the documents that he needs to run, all the checks he needs on myself,
Okay.
and that's all with Elaine.
Did he ask you to let them know what neighborhood you're going to be in case they get calls during the day?
He did not, nope.
And do you know the hours that you'll be?
They'll vary each day, but it would be between, I'd say, 10 and 7.
10 at 7, and so it's going to be, the clocks are going, so still be light at 7, is that right, pretty much, as of this weekend?
Should be light, about 6:30, and then move towards 7 as we move on.
Oh, okay. As long as it's light, right? Because people can get nervous if someone comes to the door in the dark.
Right now I'm in Shirley as well, and I do, my average is about 1 to 6. As soon as it starts getting dark, then I move my way home.
Makes sense to me. Any other questions for him?
I have a few. So you have a couple of vehicles listed. Is it just you?
It's just me.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this?
Since the beginning of the year.
Okay. As far as total, this is your first kind of career in this?
Correct.
All right.
Yep.
So I personally don't really like, we have the ability to give this license, so I will support it. But I personally just don't like door-to-door sales.
Sure.
I think most people probably don't like them either. So unless you're like nonprofits and that, to me, that's a little different. Or if you're doing like a poll of people to do a survey or campaigning for an elected position. But I think the sales stuff, people tend to not like.
Yeah, you get, some people don't mind it and other people don't like it.
Yeah.
So you get a mix of everyone. Shirley's been very similar. Some people are happy, other people are not, and they'll tell you and you move on.
Yeah. Historically, what are the hours that are usually approved for this?
The last application was 9 a.m. until sundown.
Okay. Are you asking for sundown or 7 p.m.?
I usually go home when it gets dark out.
Okay.
People want to eat dinner, they don't want to be interrupted. So it's usually when it gets dark, I move my way home. I have a family to take care of, and that's the only reason why I'm doing this is because I have a family, and it allows me to be home with the family while still working.
Yeah, and probably gives you some flexibility as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, so I'd make a motion to approve the peddler's license as submitted for Kevin Clem working for Vivint Solar.
Second.
Because Katie's participating remotely, we need to have a roll call for all votes.
Okay.
Mr. Jeffries?
I don't know if she wanted to contribute to the discussion.
Oh, Katie, did you want to contribute to the discussion?
It's very hard for me to hear information coming from the
Podium.
audience or the mic, so I'm probably just going to refrain since I think I missed some of the audio.
Okay, thanks. So that, will you be voting or not?
I will withhold voting on this one.
Okay, so then you're
just
gonna-
because I couldn't hear
Yeah,
some
so
of it.
you're going to abstain?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mr., I was going to say Mr. Damon.
Jamie used to do that all the time, too. Aye.
And I for myself. All set then.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Have a good evening, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Public hearing for license to keep, store, and sell propane at 160 Mass Ave, Mackey Corp.
Hi. So in front of the board today, because as...
You need to
as we-
introduce yourselves.
I'm Dana Mackey,
I'm Jim LeBlanc.
and we both work at Mackey Corporation. We've got 3 locations, Lunenburg, Gardner, and Sterling. And we're here about the location in Lunenburg. We have actively been selling and storing propane out of 2 locations, the 88 Mass Ave and 160 Mass Ave. And recently we have expanded a little bit and moved we ended up moving our propane tank from 88 Mass Ave to 160 Mass Ave to assist in the propane filling, as it's been more of a demand and more efficient burning fuel. So we're requesting a license to store and dispense over 2,000 gallons of propane. Right now we've always had 2 1,000-gallon tanks, one at 88 Mass Ave, which is former the Grand Rental Station, and one at the Mackey Corporation yard, which are the parcels are right next to each other on Route 2 there. And since then, the reason why we are coming for the license for propane dispensing above 2,000 gallons is because we moved that one tank from 88 Mass Ave over to 160 Mass Ave.
So you had tanks that were 1,000 gallons at both places?
Yep.
And now you're moving,
We relocated our one tank at 88 Mass Ave to the back building of 160 Mass Ave.
so you will no longer be,
We will no longer be dispensing at 88 Mass Ave.
so you won't.
Consolidating, essentially.
Yes.
And so people just get their tanks filled?
Yeah, grill tanks, campers, some of those have heating or stoves on them, so we'll supply, we only really supply to residential, anybody that can come in and physically bring a tank. We don't go out and deliver, we don't go on the road with it. It's only portable propane tanks that customers will bring to us, we will fill.
So now, do you have to have that equipment inspected annually or anything?
I believe we do, and that's
There
by
is an
Lord.
inspection
Yeah.
that goes with it, yes.
Yep.
Because that can make a mess, can't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so as long as, have you ever had any issues with the propane at any of your
No.
facilities?
Nope. Nope, it's been very sufficient, and no issues have been arisen from any of our locations that we
So
sell
now,
propane.
where are the propane tanks? At 160, that's the facility which has the big purple building down behind it,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay. I used to love that place. So where physically are the propane tanks?
They gave us a little map.
Yeah, so we have one in the front parking lot.
That's the one that's there now, the hardware store. The purple building in the back, that's where they,
Okay.
that's where they put the one.
Oh, okay, so it's down near the
Yep.
purple building? All right.
So they're not right next to each other. They're
No, they're not.
Right.
probably actually the same distance apart that they were before.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
I don't have a question, I have a comment. So I shop at Mackey's, so I think you guys do some good work down there, but I want to vocalize, since you're in front of us, my one concern, which is how long it takes to get propane when you go to Mackey's. That's, sometimes you go there and it's like 20 minutes, you're waiting in the parking lot, and it's like, what is going on?
If
So-
you stop by the purple building, which is now blue,
Oh, it
We'll
is?
have to wait.
Oh.
Okay.
This was one of our solutions to that, is to be able to service the customers a lot more efficient.
Okay.
So there hopefully will be less of a line.
All right. So now it's go to the purple building instead of the
Which is now
Which is
blue.
now blue, so go out back, yes, correct.
I'm colorblind, so it doesn't matter.
Formerly known as
Same
purple.
color.
Take a right, you can't miss it. Follow the road.
Right.
But you'll be in and out quickly.
Excellent. Well, I'm already excited about this plan.
Yeah, it sounds it.
So I move to accept the application to store and sell propane at 160 Mass Ave as presented.
I'd second that.
Katie, did you want to comment
I could
on
hear
that?
all that, so I'll go with an aye.
All right, aye for Katie. Mike,
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries,
Aye.
Mr. McQuaid.
Aye.
Aye for myself. Are all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
Great
night.
You guys, take care.
Thank you for your work in Lunenburg. We appreciate you. 7:20, too bad. Meeting with the library director, annual town meeting article regarding library trust funds.
Too bad.
Not bad at all. Efficiency.
Yeah, that's what we-
Muir Hammond, Director of the Lunenburg Public Library. Our warrant article, library trust funds.
Now, what's the number of, which article is that?
Very last
Oh, okay.
one.
Let you guys catch up to the warrant article.
Yes, so letter R.
Okay, I remember reading it, just didn't remember where it was.
The library trust funds have historically returned low rates, 3.93 for FY 2019. The objective of this article would be to allow the trustees to receive some higher returns on those investments. As a point of context, the S&P 500 returns in 2016 were 11.93%, 2017, 21.94%, 2018, down year, negative 4.41%, 2019, though, 31.1%. Those rates include dividends, but no adjustment for inflation.
But those were probably higher risk investments, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
The library's probably not going to play with fire with that money.
That would not be the plan. No. So as far as the legislation piece, there are other communities who have succeeded in getting similar legislation passed. Sterling is one example. Northampton is another. Athol is in the process of passing legislation to follow the same prudent investment rules for a building fund. The legislation would basically enable the library trustees to find an agent to manage those investments prudently. So obviously taking into account risk, as you ask about. Bartholomew and Company, where the money is currently, is one potential such entity who might manage that money slightly differently than it's currently invested. Another would be Edward Jones' local office in Fitchburg, who's the group that manages the Friends of the Library's investment funds. So those are potential managers.
So how are the Friends of the Library investment funds doing? Better?
Good, yeah, absolutely. The Friends of the LPL with Edward Jones, over the last 3 years, annualized rate of return is 8.5%.
Okay.
2019 was 19.48% on their biggest single group of funds. Other examples, Northampton's Forbes Library, so similar entity to the public library here in town. Their investments are still managed by Bartholomew, but they're following the prudent investment rule. They have kind of two goals: long-term growth and also kind of keeping up with inflation.
Mm-hmm.
They can sustainably pull out a yield of 4% to use each year for library purposes. So that would, kind of just to give you a ballpark, 2 to 3% for inflation on top of that probably, and then a small amount for growth likely. So kind of context and examples of what we might potentially do.
So your money could work a lot harder for you.
Absolutely, yep. More efficiently, I think, too. It's currently kind of in with the town's stabilization fund, so very conservative. And those, as I said, just under 4% for FY19 on kind of returns there, or increase in value.
So it sounds like, we've had the opportunity to talk about this as well, but it sounds as though the main goal here is that there's a lot of great returns going on right now, these last few years at least in the market, and you guys are kind of in a position where the town has to keep their investments really stable, and that limits the amount of growth potential of them. And you guys want to kind of capture a little bit more growth than what we're currently able to do. So I wholly support what they're trying to do on this. I don't know, are there any reservations on
Well,
anyone's?
I guess I wonder what happens if it becomes too risky and you lose it all? Does the town suffer any consequences? What's the downside for the town?
I think certainly there would be downsides if that were the case. Part of the goal would be to actively manage the funds, and part of that would include things like rebalancing the portfolio to be less risk adverse. Just by way, the Friends example, in the fall, the Edward Jones advisors came to meet with the Friends of the Library to discuss rebalancing to that kind of less risky balance. So that kind of guidance is part of selecting the right person to help manage those funds.
So, worst case scenario, what's the risk to the town?
So
If I can jump in.
Please.
So my understanding is that you guys have roughly $70,000 that they're looking to have grow. And so it's 70 grand that's growing at, 2 to 4% a year. That's a really long time before you're going to be able to.
So if they lost it all, would it affect
Well, I
the
think
town?
that but their investments are not going to be high risk like that they're just looking to be able to have a certain percentage of it.
I get it. I was just saying, worst case scenario, would it adversely affect the town?
Yeah, I think worst case scenario is what you'd be talking about is the principal of those initial gifts or bequests, depending, there are 12 or 15 different at least. If the principal of those initial gifts gets cut into, that's where, you get some egg on your face if that were to happen. The total, just out of that kind of 70 grand, the total in Bartholomew's about 34,000 of that is principal. And so we've got currently a very large cushion to work with, where we're not getting close to that worst case scenario. That principal is for trust funds in particular, the principal is what you have to protect. And certainly.
And that will be protected.
Absolutely. The plan would be to go nowhere near that. And, so the Northampton example, and part of the Warren article is an investment policy, including kind of sub-policies within that to help guide some of that, so that, necessarily working with a board, you have a little bit of time constraint. It takes a little bit of time to get anything done, but those policies kind of guide that extra cushion. And so making sure that the principal in particular of the gifts is protected would be part of that policy that's developed by the board.
No, it sounds like a great idea, really, to try to make the money work harder. Do we need to do anything tonight, or is he just explaining?
At some point, I think, it seems like the board is likely to make a recommendation for town meeting when the voting comes up, but as long as you guys have your questions answered, you don't have any guidance as far as the language of the warrant article from your point of view, certainly answers my needs and objectives as a representative of the Board of Trustees.
Excellent.
Will you be presenting the warrant article at town meeting?
I will plan to, absolutely.
Excellent.
All right, great. I really appreciate you coming before us. It's really nice to have someone come and explain this to us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And thanks again for that photography workshop. That was
You're very
splendid.
welcome. Our pleasure. And you may not have heard, but the Friends are very interested in supporting a student exhibit for you guys.
Oh.
So that should be May, I think.
Cool.
Obviously still in the planning stages, but if you want to plug that, that should be coming up too, with an opening reception as well.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Let's see. All right, interviews, appointments, reappointments, resignations, ratification of the town manager's appointment of a dietary aide, videographers, and senior videographer.
So I'm asking the board to ratify my appointments to the following positions. Ann Penny for the dietary aide position for the senior center. Emily Bodkin, a videographer. Kevin Boosum as a videographer. Timothy Foster as a videographer. Peter Keto as a videographer. Scott Finnegan as a videographer. Kayla Reffett as a videographer. Meadow Galbo as a videographer, and John Dextra as a senior videographer.
Any questions about this?
No.
Move we ratify the town manager's,
I actually have some questions, but how long have the videographers been working as independent contractors?
Multiple years.
And why is this change necessary now?
After review that, and a question by a videographer that they should be paid as employees, it was looked into, and we are correcting the problem by making them employees.
So, I guess, how did you find out that they needed to be employees? I mean, it feels like you were rolling along for years, and it worked. What is it that prevents them from remaining contractors?
Potential filing of a suit with the appropriate Division of Labor Relations, I believe it is, as well as, so a review that they don't meet the three-pronged approach.
What's the three-pronged approach?
It's whether they're if they have direction of their own time versus directed by an employer for their hours of work.
So
that
they're directed
required-
by the employer,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Right, so they meet that prong, then they should be an employee.
Oh, that's funny that we weren't aware of that.
oh, more
Well,
like,
we're correcting a problem. We're addressing it.
And now that I hear that they're not benefited, what and how could they become benefited?
Only if they worked regularly scheduled hours of 20 hours or more.
They're
They're not.
They're working, so 20 hours or more. Who would make that, who would have to approve that for them to become benefited?
There'd have to be an appropriation through the public access cable, their enterprise account, and they would have to budget for all the indirect costs associated with that as well.
So even retirement, they would have to pay for everything. The town wouldn't be on the hook for anything.
Right, all enterprise accounts pay for indirect costs.
Not for the sewer commission business administrator.
Yes,
All the retirement costs
the town's portion for the retirement, yes.
is paid by,
The sewer enterprise.
oh, okay. All right, then I guess I'm all set.
I'd remove that we ratify the town manager's appointments for videographers and dietary aid as spelled out.
Second.
Katie, do you have any comments or questions on this?
I don't, thank you.
All right, we're ready for a vote. Roll call vote. Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mr. McQuaid?
Aye.
Ms. Adams?
Aye.
An aye for myself. Thank you.
Thank you. The next appointment is for a temporary administrative assessing assistant, and this is due to the current administrative assessing assistant is retiring. So we posted this position as a temporary position, and the person within the office, the principal assessing clerk, applied for it. This was posted in-house per the collective bargaining agreement. It's posted in-house for 5 days. And she applied, and we would like to offer her the position. And so I'm asking for you to ratify this appointment. Just a side note, I was very pleased that she applied. I think it provides good continuity in that department. She'll get to work with Louise Paquette from now until the date of her retirement, and that will work out well from now until then.
What will happen, how do you get to an administrative assessing assistant that's not temporary?
So the Board of Assessors is reviewing the structure of the department right now, and so they'll decide on next steps, but it would somehow be filled, that position would be filled eventually, but they're maybe looking at principal assessor in that office as well. So, but all within the budget.
So I have a question. So I think that we can fully discuss this because we have an agenda item that says interviews, appointments, reappointments, and resignations. But I don't know if we can vote on this because it's not posted on the agenda.
Can I make a comment?
Well, can we have this discussion first?
Yeah, it's in regards to that question when we get to.
Did you have
It's not
any?
posted on the agenda?
No.
No, because it's just dietary aid, but videographers and senior videographer.
That information on that clarifies it.
It's on my agenda.
It's on mine too.
Town manager appointment of temporary administrative assessing assistant.
It's not on mine.
Is it on the
Not on
one
mine
that was
either.
posted?
Posted agenda.
Is on the legally posted agenda.
Got
So your version just does not have it.
Okay.
That one. Apologize for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, my version is the one that Elaine printed and put out here for me, so.
So I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay.
Okay. It was posted.
I think that you gave a really good explanation for this. I move to appoint Sheila Cragen as a temporary administrative assessing assistant, to ratify, the appointment of Sheila Cragen as a temporary administrative assessing assistant.
Second.
Oh, now that we have a motion and a second, Katie, do you have any discussion points?
Nope.
All right. Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mr. McQuaid?
Aye.
Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Aye for myself. Thank you. All right, Clockwinder, Chuck Vizinia? Did I pronounce it right? Huh? Venezia.
Chuck Venezia, 1402 Mass Ave. And I've applied for the position of clockwinder. I kind of became aware that there were clockwinders. My association with Bill Tyler at the Historical Society. He's our vice president, and I'm the president there. And Bill has been kind enough to bring me up there a few times. And I don't know if you know, there's a lighter one and a heavier one, and he always lets me crank up the heavier one. I think it's only polite, to let the visitors do that.
Sounds like a good manager.
Yes. And, as far as myself, I love old machinery and restoring old woodworking machinery and that sort of thing.
Is the term going to expire this June?
Yes, June, right, because of the replacement form.
It seems awfully soon.
It's because it falls under the annual appointments that are done in June.
Oh, okay. You going to reapply?
Yes.
All right. I like that spirit.
Yeah, so anyway, I would appreciate your support, and I thank you for allowing me to come before you here.
Well, thank you for wanting the job.
Make a motion to appoint Chuck Venezia to Clockwinder.
Second.
Now it's been motioned and seconded. Katie, anything to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jeffries?
I just want to say thank you very much for volunteering. And,
And thank you for declaring today Super Tuesday. It makes it all the more special.
Yes.
I'll remember it.
aye.
Aye.
Rick Wade, we already got from, I for myself, thank you very much for coming forward.
Thank you
Have
very
fun
much.
with it.
Good evening.
Thanks.
Ready for the town manager's report then?
Okay.
Yes.
Great. My announcement on existing vacancies. We have one regular member and 3 alternate vacancies on the Agricultural Commission, 1 vacancy on the Americans with Disabilities Act Commission, 1 vacancy on the Architectural Preservation District Commission, 1 vacancy on the Finance Committee, 1 vacancy on the Open Space Committee, 1 vacancy on the Planning Board, and 2 associate vacancies on the Zoning Board of Appeals. And talent bank forms can be obtained on the town website or from the Board of Selectmen's office, and you can submit them there as well. Board of Health information on the coronavirus. So last week I reached out to the Board of Health to see if they had received any updates from the Department of Public Health regarding the coronavirus and information that we could share with the public and staff. Our agent through Neshoba Associated Boards of Health sent an advisory with the links to the Department of Health's website and the CDC's website that has the most up-to-date information. This information, as well as preventative measures recommended by the CDC to stay healthy, was shared on the town website, town Facebook page, sent to the Lunenburg Ledger, and sent via the town-wide listserv. The Council on Aging Director posted the notice on the bathrooms, bulletin boards, kitchen area, lunchroom, and on the Eagle House Facebook page, and we'll have hard copies for clients and in packages that go out to the Meals on Wheels recipients.
Great.
Any further updates from the Board of Health will be shared on the website, town Facebook, and emailed to the town-wide listserv and sent to the Lunenburg Ledger.
If residents who don't have electronic access are looking for more information, who should they contact?
The Board of Health.
Contact the Board of Health. Great. Now, is someone answering the phone there, like 8 to 3 or 8 to 4 daily, or?
This week, I think tomorrow, Jim Gareffi's in the office. He's the agent from Neshoba Health, so he'll be there. Dave Passios may know, he's a member of the Board of Health, but believe their administrative assistant is out this week. But, okay.
Okay. So after next Tuesday, daily updates could be obtained by calling the Board of Health? Correct. Thank you.
Active shooter trainings. The town hall will be closed tomorrow, Wednesday, March 4th, from 2 to 4 p.m. for an active shooter training for staff. The police department will be conducting these trainings at our town buildings, dates to be determined, and then with larger commercial businesses in the community. The town hall will reopen to the public at 4 p.m., and any meeting scheduled after 4 p.m. will not be affected. An update on the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Planning Grant. The Land Use Director, who is the lead on this project, has been working with the consultant, Comprehensive Environmental, Inc., and there will be a kickoff meeting with the appropriate staff on Monday, March 9th. This core team includes the Land Use Director, the Police Chief, the Fire Chief, the DPW Director, Conservation Administrator, the Council on Aging Director, and myself. Subsequent to the kickoff meeting, there will be 2 public workshops that will be scheduled in the spring that are an important part of the planning phase. The Old Primary School Hazardous Materials Survey. I received a copy of the final report for the Hazardous Materials Survey that was performed and forwarded to the board on Friday, February 28th. The report identifies a cost of $37,875 to abate the identified hazardous materials. An update on home rule petitions for additional liquor licenses in the town charter. As relayed to the board in an email sent on February 13th, the 2 home rule petitions for additional liquor licenses were filed by Representative Hay and assigned bill numbers H4365 and H4366. H4365 for an additional liquor license for Lonnie Orchards went to committee and reported out of committee favorably this week. It will now have a second and third reading by the House and then go to the Senate before being voted on. House Bill 4366 was not voted on by the committee since it did not have an address or economic zone attached to it. I have a call into Representative Hayes' office to see if we have any recourse to ask the committee to move that bill forward. The Town Charter Home Rule petition was filed by Senator Tran and has been assigned bill number S2557. This has been referred to the Joint Committee on Municipalities and Regional Government. I will provide further updates as I receive them.
If I can ask for clarification, I recall that we voted, or that the board voted for the request for Laney Orchards, which you spoke about. The second request in here, as I recall, it was that we were also asking for additional liquor licenses.
Yes, so
for the town.
H4366 is that other bill for an additional liquor license that was not assigned a location. It was considered an open license. And they did not act on it because it didn't have an address or economic zone attached to it.
And that's what town council had predicted.
Right.
And
But they've never,
I thought they said sometimes they did. It wasn't a never.
he said, I think he said it was unlikely if it didn't have an address attached to it. And Tom said, well, let's just see what happens, you know? Can't blame us for trying. So it's not an unexpected outcome.
The DPW roof project, bids for the DPW roof project were received on February 25th. There were a total of 12 bids received, with a low bid of $84,000 and a high bid of $137,500. This was a project in the fiscal 19 capital plan in the amount of $65,000, and we will need to subsidize the balance of $19,000 for this project from the facilities budget. The project schedule is to have this complete by the close of this fiscal year. An update on the fuel tanks located at the DPW. As mentioned previously, we have contracted with an engineering company for the removal and replacement of the fuel tanks located at the DPW. They have performed the survey and submitted a request for determination of applicability to the Conservation Commission to be on the Conservation Commission's March 18th agenda. As a requirement of the special pollution liability insurance, we are also required to, that we're required to carry for the underground tanks. I have notified the carrier that we have begun the process for the removal of the tanks over the next few months so that they can witness the removal and be notified of the timing of the removal.
So will we pay less insurance when they're above ground?
Yes.
Great.
So are we still on track for these new tanks to be installed before town meeting?
By the end of the fiscal year, you mean? That's
So we've pushed
the
that a
hope,
little
as long, it's when, after conservation, it will be put out to bid for the installation piece, so that's the goal.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. District Local Technical Assistance Application for Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan. On Friday, February 28th, I notified the board through email that the District Local Technical Assistance Application that I submitted to Montechusett Regional Planning Commission to complete our ADA Self-Evaluation and Transition Plan for our facilities, public parking lots, and parks and open spaces was approved. John Hume of MRPC will be in touch shortly with the next steps. Recycling Education and Enforcement Coordinator position. I attended the Board of Health meeting last night to discuss the Recycling Education and Enforcement Coordinator grant through Mass DEP. The goal would be to apply for a part-time grant-funded position that would be a $30,000 grant from Mass DEP for a 24-month period and would require a 25% match from the towns participating. If we shared this with one other town, it would cost a total of $3,750 or $1,875 each of the 2 years. If shared with two other towns, it would cost a total of $2,500 or $1,250 each year. Under both scenarios, this cost would be paid out of the Recycling Dividends Program grant. The Board of Health plays a vital role in this grant process because they would have to adopt comprehensive hauler regulations that includes mandatory recycling for residential generators with an enforcement mechanism. The Board of Health is moving forward and will be holding a workshop meeting on March 9th to discuss the comprehensive regulations. This position would provide outreach and education to private haulers about recycling rules and the enforcement component and implement enforcement protocol on private haulers as allowed by the accepted regulations. It is not my intention that this position would be funded at the conclusion of the grant. I'm still looking into whether it would be allowable for this position to be an independent contractor or not. Dementia-friendly update. The Dementia-Friendly Action Group met on Monday, February 24th, and are currently looking into what is involved in becoming an age-friendly community. We will be reviewing the criteria, what we are currently doing or are planning on doing that would qualify as becoming age-friendly, with a goal of applying to be an age-friendly community in the future. And our next meeting is Monday, March 23rd. Fiscal year 2021 financial updates. I emailed the board on Friday, February 28th, that I received notification from our regional assessing firm that our estimated new growth for fiscal 21 is decreasing another $40,600 due to a delay in the construction of the Settlers solar project due to the utility company's study. A new target date for this project is September 30th, which the new growth for this project will be realized for the fiscal 22 budget. In response to this, I asked Harold Scheid of RRG to come before the Finance Committee to further explain the significant decline in new growth that we have been experiencing from fiscal 20 to fiscal 21. He will be attending this Thursday's Finance Committee meeting. Secondly,
The Finance Committee meeting starts at 6:30?
6:30.
Here.
Yes. Secondly, the Finance Subcommittee for the Neshoba Regional Dispatch Center voted on the assessment for the regional dispatch, and our assessment will be $198,530, which is a 5% increase. Our original budget was estimate was a 13% increase, so this the estimate is changing from $213,497 to the $198,530, which is a decrease of $14,967. We should receive Moneytech's assessment amount this week, and they will be presenting at Thursday's Finance Committee meeting.
So Harold Scheid, Moneytech, is the school committee also presenting then?
No, this Thursday is Moneytech, Public Access, Harold Scheid, and they'll also be having a discussion on debt as well.
Thank you.
Welcome. Meetings, events, and other announcements. I attended a portion of the Green Communities Task Force meeting on Thursday, February 27th, before heading to the Finance Committee meeting where the police and fire chiefs presented their fiscal 21 budgets. And I will be attending the Green Communities Task Force meeting this Thursday at 6 p.m. until the start of the Finance Committee meeting at 6:30. And as I previously stated, they're meeting with Moneytech and the Public Access Committee. I will be attending the Board of Assessors meeting tomorrow to discuss their fiscal 21 budget and changes in the estimated new growth amount. A reminder that the warrant closes on Monday, March 16th at 4 p.m., and Finance will hold their public hearing on the budget on Thursday, March 26th at 6:30 p.m. The Citizens Party Caucus will be on Monday, March 16th at 7 p.m. in the Turkey Hill Elementary School cafeteria. The special state representative election will be on March 31st, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the TC Passios building. And lastly, a reminder, dog licenses for 2020 are due by April 1st to the town clerk's office.
Katie, did you have any questions on the town manager's report?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have anything?
No question, but a comment. So, now I want to make sure that we are good employers here. I know you were on vacation last week, but I'm making a comment that you were in California until Thursday, and then on Friday we started getting a bunch of emails. So I want to discourage I know that there's a lot of work to do, but I certainly want to encourage employees of the town to enjoy their time away. Sometimes I know it's a lot of stuff to do, but, I know that with family, you only get the time you have, and sometimes it's too short.
Thank you.
But I do appreciate all the work you do for us, Heather.
Thank you.
Current business, vote to accept the interest of special STM acceptance of Butterfly Lane as a public way.
Have we been, this was on our agenda last week, and I think we just skipped over it by accident.
Yes.
But have we been treating Butterfly Lane as a public way as far as plowing them goes this year?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that question. I can find out.
All right.
I have just sort of a general comment on that whole issue. We've been having a lot of recent discussions about storm drains entering the MS4 boundaries, municipal separate storm sewer system boundaries. We have a permit for that. And there are some communities that just don't allow any entrance into that system. And there are other communities that will allow it, but they require that anybody entering it, such as Butterfly Lane, gets a permit and takes care of the maintenance on their own, and so it doesn't fall back on the town. So I think we should look into that, should we have a policy that we don't accept storm drains into the MS4 and that they need to be taken care of by the people responsible for that stormwater? And if we do they need a permit, and do they need to take care of the maintenance themselves? Because, if the town just takes on more and more, it costs everyone in town more and more.
I think the adverse effect of that would be if you don't accept it and they don't organize, form a condo committee or somehow.
You have to be able to enforce it, yes.
Right, but yeah, if we just don't accept it, there's no standard to make them do anything, and it'll negatively contribute to our stormwater in actuality, whether legally falls under us or not.
I'm
Is that no
assuming,
recourse?
I'm assuming that the communities that don't accept it allow for other things. It's just something to think about and to look into without just going, no.
Yeah. Normally, I'm with you on trying to find ways to save money, but on this one, I think the concern for me is that we want to make sure that all the residents who move into these new roads are certainly paying taxes that are maintaining storm drains for other people. So it seems as if that it should be that we should not create a system where we have, as of everything pre-2021 is town covered and everything post-21 is private, because I imagine that's going to be a decent amount of growth in the next 50 years or so.
And if you're going to make a decision like that, that needs to be addressed during site plan approval to say this project's never going to be accepted by the town. So the builder and the people who buy those houses know that this is going to be a private
A
development.
long-term issue. And it forces everyone to basically have a condo association.
I am only making you aware of what other communities are doing. It's something to think about.
Right, I'm just saying, it's if you want us to think about that and do those things, it's just.
I'm not saying that you necessarily do those things.
I'm just saying how, it's something we need to start and fill in. We can't just throw it on people at the end.
Oh, of course. Like you couldn't do it to Butterfly Lane because they got all the permits and, they did what they were supposed to do.
Right.
It would certainly have to be something that was thought about carefully. You look at the, what are the adverse, unintended consequences, are we worse off, are we better off, I'm just saying there are other ways to skin the municipal cat, and we should be open to looking at other ideas. Being on the Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition, I receive a lot of information and get a lot of ideas about what other communities are doing.
Wasn't saying it's a bad idea, I'm just saying, I'm trying to facilitate how you would accomplish that.
Yeah, you're right. You would, if it turned out that this was in the town's best interest, you would certainly, you could not impose it on anything once the process has begun. It would have to be for new projects. if it's even feasible.
So I move to accept Butterfly Lane as a public way. Does the
No,
language-
there's a motion in the folder
Oh,
that
okay.
is recommended
I
by
gotta
town
word
council.
this the right way?
Yeah.
All right, where's this one at? Butterfly Lane. Motion for acceptance, okay. I'll try that again.
Where is it?
I move,
At the end?
it's at the very beginning, Butterfly Lane PDF. I'm sorry, motion for acceptance. I move that the board accept for nominal consideration a deed of a fee interest in that certain roadway known as Butterfly Lane, determined to be unique, to be used for municipal purposes consistent with those uses to which other public ways in the town are customarily put.
Second.
Who wrote that?
I like your first version better.
Yeah, right, a lawyer.
That is outrageous.
So a motion has been made, has it been seconded?
Yes.
Katie, do you have any input?
Nope, sounds good.
Okay. Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mr. McQuaid?
Aye.
Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Aye for myself.
I'm sure they'll be very happy.
Yes.
I think like 50 people showed up at town meeting for that.
Okay, what's next? Oh, where my agenda went.
Annual town meeting articles.
Okay, discussion of fiscal year 2021 budget, FY21 capital plan, 5-year financial forecast, and annual town meeting warrant articles. Are we going to go through the town meeting articles tonight?
If you have any questions on any of them, a lot of them are reoccurring articles that happen every year at town meeting.
One thing that I thought of, oh, I'm sorry. Dave.
Oh, you can go.
One thing I thought of was that I think it would be, when do we need to make recommendations? What's our by date for that?
By,
If you want to get into printing, right?
right, so you're gonna have, the closes on the 16th, you'll have the 2 subsequent Tuesdays.
Okay. So we could vote on the 17th to our recommend. So I would encourage that. I think that there's sentiment in town, and I agree with the sentiment that one of the most important functions that this board has is making recommendations related to warrant articles for town meeting. And so I think that it's really important for us to wait for a full body to be here, which should be present on the 17th, and that we not make any recommendations until that time.
Yep, but tonight we can ask questions. Does anybody have any questions on anything?
Just to add one, we voted at the last building committee meeting to get a warrant to give a presentation. So I don't know if the chairman has reached out to you to coordinate language for that specifically,
No,
but,
not yet.
okay. But we voted for it, so we should get it on there one way or the other. I don't know if you,
I have a question on the solid waste disposal enterprise fund article. Which one is that? What number, letter is it?
L?
L. What is the money involved in that?
That's the enterprise fund to operate the pay-as-you-throw program.
And I notice in the budget, there's $206,000 for that program. Is that an additional $206,000?
Let me see what you're looking at. That is the town's portion and the recycling portion of it. So the trash disposal is through the enterprise, the recycling part of the program is funded through the operating budget.
So the 206,000 is just what recycling costs us?
Yes, and for disposal of the town's recycling and residents.
So basically, all of the trash is covered by the
The
bags.
pay-as-you-throw program. Mhm.
And it's $206,000 just for recycling.
That's why we focused
That's why
on
we've been
contamination.
focusing. Right.
Okay, that explains it. And I have a question on N. It talks about, 191,000 to operate the Public Education Government Access Enterprise Fund, and then and the next one, 120,000. Are those town funds?
No. For the cable, that's through their enterprise.
So that's funny. In the enterprise fund for solid waste, there's no money mentioned. In this one, there's money mentioned.
That's how they submitted their articles.
N is submitted by PAC, the other one's submitted by
Right.
town manager.
It's an odd way to submit it, because it looks like they're looking for $400,000.
That's through monies they anticipate on receiving, just like sewer through ratepayers.
So the intention is that it doesn't cost the town anything.
Right, this is all through the enterprise, self-sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any other questions?
No, but for clarity, it does cost the town, everyone who's paying into these enterprises funds are residents of Lunenburg. So it's just not hitting us on this side, but it certainly is hitting the taxpayer.
Yes, it certainly is. It's people who are on sewer pay the sewer fees, the people who subscribe to Comcast pay these fees.
And some people who are in sewer pay sewer fees.
No, betterment fees.
And the wording for the Selectmen's article, that came directly from the meeting, verbatim of that vote.
Which letter was that one?
It was Q.
I'm sure there's going to be questions on the last line of that, the part where it says, "or take any action relative thereto," because that's a little bit vague for a town meeting floor.
It is.
Town moderator usually has to be within the confines of the,
I'm just meaning the public will certainly have questions about what that means.
Or take any other action, yeah. I can see the line forming now.
Yeah. Yeah, we got all day, and all night, actually, as it turns out. Any other questions on warrant articles at this point?
just comments as well. Oh, sorry.
Katie, you got any questions on the warrant articles?
Not from this context. It's sort of hard. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. You're welcome.
So two other articles that have been previously mentioned. So the Green Communities Task Force is coming to the Selectmen's meeting next Tuesday to present for the conversion of the streetlights to LED. They're meeting this Thursday again. They had a meeting last Thursday to discuss that. And we will also have an executive session next week on 635 Mass Ave.
Will that be before or after the meeting?
Scheduled before.
Okay, so like 6:30 or 6?
We'll be reaching out.
Okay.
Elaine will be to
Right.
make sure that can happen at
Okay.
6:30, but that would be preferable time to start.
I want to remind you that I will not be here
Will not
next
be.
Tuesday. And that executive session might be helpful for me to be here for that.
I'm sure it would be. Do you want to call in?
It's at, what time is-
6:30?
I can call in at 6:30.
All right.
Let me make a note.
Okay.
All right.
Any other comments on the warrant articles? No? All right, are we ready for, minute, there aren't any minutes. Looks like there's some warrants. Water billing, third quarterly billing is $7,211.24. What is this? Oh, this is the same billing?
Same amount, right?
Same, okay. More papers on that billing. Payroll warrant article. $828,095.27. Accounts payable in the amount of $374,364.44. Deductions in the amount of $577,377.60. I like the way she makes her sevens. Nice.
And these were the 2 licenses that are approved?
The license is approved tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Just one here?
I think it would be you as acting chair.
Any action items from anyone?
No, I want to note, though, that I did ask last week about the Citizens Award. I did get confirmation that that will be discussed on the 17th. So I will purpose to get some information to the board to have in the packet prior to that meeting.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
I have an action item. I went back to reread the minutes from the joint meeting held between the school committee and the BOS back on November 17th, 2018. It's in a section on the request for inclusion of a town representative in union negotiations, and I quote, "Both boards agree that the town manager would be involved in the negotiations." Listed as the third follow-up point in those minutes was, "Town manager will participate in the school union negotiations." This is a request to schedule a BOS executive session ASAP to be briefed on the progress of the teachers' union negotiations.
I also read those minutes, and I watched the YouTube video of that meeting. And and the minutes, I think, are not a complete description of what happened if you watch the YouTube portion of that meeting. Because during it, the superintendent stated working in consultation with the town manager, not that she would have to be present at the negotiations, and that it would be included, but not at the table. That's
Dr. Burnham stated she foresaw working with the town manager in this process as well. So I would like an executive session, because we need an update on those negotiations.
I am, just as a note, I am very opposed to us having anything to do with the school teachers union negotiations. So if that is scheduled, you can count that I will not attend, with all respect.
Well, you weren't on the board at the time.
I wasn't.
Any other action items? I do have one more, actually. Where is it? I I would like an update on the senior tax work-off program. I had requested, and BOS Chair Alonso agreed, that the hourly wage be aligned with the state's minimum wage. I had sent this request to the chair of that committee, who replied it seemed reasonable, but I have not heard back on any completed action on this matter. I'd request an update from that committee chair or one of the town employees. There's 4 town employees, I believe, on that committee, or the town manager on the status of this request.
I can give you an update. They did vote, I can't tell you the date of the meeting, it was a recent meeting, to increase the hourly rate to $12.75, the state minimum wage.
And did they just further go along with Tom Alonso's recommendation that they just align it with the state minimum wage?
I don't know the answer to that. I do know that they upped it.
I'm really glad that happened, but could you find out if,
Okay.
because it seemed like they thought that that was the simplest way to do it. Just align it with state minimum wage, and you don't have to go back every time. All right, are there any committee reports?
No, yes, the Library Committee, Mira was here tonight, the Board of Trustees for the library, Mira was here tonight to present what their concerns were, which was related to the article for the trust funds. Their other concern was related to the town manager's budget, but that's all been clarified and worked out, so I want to thank Heather for being very responsive to Mira, and certainly I had a meeting the other evening, a conversation with the chair of the library Board of Trustees, who's currently in Taiwan, or at least he was when we were talking, and he also wanted to relay his gratitude for our support and how the ease by which the library is able to work with other town departments, including this board.
That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Any other committee reports? I have one. I attended the steering committee meeting of the Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition, held right here in our beautiful library last Wednesday. I am pleased to report that the coalition is hosting 4 illicit discharge detection and elimination, IDDE, trainings. The first will be held next door in Fitchburg on Tuesday, March 24th from 8 to 2, and will include lunch. The coalition is also holding 2 standard operating procedures, SOP workshops, to those in the know, and there will be one in Fitchburg on April 30th. It will run from 8 to 1 and include lunch. These trainings are annual requirements of the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, MS4, permit, and attending these free workshops will save the town thousands of dollars. Lunenburg is fortunate to belong to this coalition, headed by exceptional leaders who are boots on the ground, town engineers, DPW directors, town managers, and conservation agents. I believe I'm the only volunteer on the steering committee. So I'm the only one who doesn't really know anything. So I take the minutes. It's a great group, though, and I've been very, very lucky to be a part of it. Katie, do you have any committee reports?
I don't, thank you.
The upcoming meetings event schedule, March 10th, March 17th, March 24th, and March 31st, and I think we're thinking about
March 23rd.
March 23rd. So it's a good thing March is a long month. We're going to be jamming a lot in.
That's straight out to the end of April, right?
Are there any public comments from the board?
No.
Any public comments from the public?
Peter Beardmore, 282 Pleasant Street. I just have a comment and a question. First of all, I want to acknowledge the town manager's report. Despite our occasional disagreements, the amount of work that's happening in your office right now, this time of year, is extraordinary. And I commend you for what's happening right now in your office. My question is, with respect to the roofing bids in the DPW, you mentioned that delta would be addressed by the DPW budget. Are those anticipated excess funds from the current fiscal year?
It's within this current fiscal year.
But those were not budgeted specifically for that purpose?
No, we had earmarked funds for services, for engineering services to help with projects.
Okay.
And that amount is not going to be used for the remainder of the year, so.
Okay, and do you anticipate that will require a transfer, or can that be handled under that line? Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
If there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion.
To adjourn? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries?
Aye.
Mr. McQuaid?
Aye.
An aye for myself. Good